But she wasn't in her downtown luxury apartment, nor at the Lin family's old residence. None of the hotels in the capital had any record of her stay. He contacted all her friends and classmates, but she wasn't staying with any of them either. It wasn't until evening that his assistant called to inform him they had reviewed the surveillance footage from outside the wedding venue and nearby roads, tracking her all the way to the airport. But for some reason when they checked with the airlines, there was no record of her boarding any flight. The surveillance footage outside the airport was also retrieved by them. After she entered the airport, she never came out again. She most likely has already left the country, but they don't know which specific country she went to. Receiving this call from his special assistant, Zane Pei felt as if his heart were being torn apart. The Pei family has a special background, so he couldn't go abroad. Yet she chose to leave the country, clearly never wanting to see him again. He knew he had made a mistake, one that couldn't be undone. But he missed her so much, desperately, madly. He still had to find her. Only after clutching the gift box tightly did he realize something very important. Not long ago the photo of the two of them on the nightstand had shattered. She said she had already arranged for someone to remake the glass photo frame of that picture. But half a month has passed and the photo still hasn't been placed on the bedside table. Clearly her earlier claim about having the photo frame remade was just a way to brush him off. Their couple photo was deliberately broken by her after she became disappointed in him. She only wanted to destroy it, never to remake it. Yes, she even mentioned having their wedding photo remade. Thinking this, he quickly got up and rushed into the adjacent bedroom. After recovering for a while, he slowly straightened up and noticed that the low shelf was empty. And he remembered clearly that there used to be a crystal ball placed on this low shelf. The faces of that couple were customized based on their own images. When she gave him this crystal ball, she smiled brightly and joyfully. She had said they would grow old together, so why was she ignoring him now? Or had their crystal ball gone? Had some careless servant hidden it from them? Zane Pei wanted to rush out and ask the servants where they had hidden their crystal ball. But as sitting on the edge of the master bedroom's large bed, he couldn't help but carefully place the gift box in his arms once more. Inside the bedroom, it was unusually clean. Not only were there no new wedding photos, but even the previous wedding photos and fragments of the wedding dress had been cleared away by the servants. Bending over in agony, he pressed hard on his chest, which felt as if it were being sliced apart, wishing for death rather than enduring such pain. That crystal ball was specially custom-made by her. Inside the snow globe, there was a couple nestled together. She said, "Zane, look quickly. Snowflakes are falling on our heads. This proves we'll grow old together." He dashed out. He accidentally bumped into a nearby sideboard. The cabinet door opened and something slid out from inside. He realized something and suddenly felt afraid to look in that direction. After standing frozen for a long time, he finally lowered his gaze to the floor. It was the artificial snowflakes from the snow globe, along with shards of glass, that had slid out of the cabinet. Clearly the glass ball was deliberately shattered. The pair of figures carved from crystal had also broken into countless pieces, beyond recognition. It was as if their relationship could never return to its original state. Not just the crystal ball she had given him. At the beginning of this year on Valentine's Day, she personally knitted a scarf for him. The girl who grew up pampered was truly not skilled at handicrafts. To knit that scarf well, her fingertips were swollen from being pricked by the needles. When she gave him the scarf, seeing her red and swollen fingertips, his eyes welled up with heartache and he repeatedly said, "Darling, please don't knit scarves anymore." And she nestled in his arms, coquettishly insisting that she must knit it. She also said that when a woman gives her boyfriend a scarf, the two can stay together for a lifetime. Best of all, they would never part in the next life either. Inside the side-lying wardrobe, it's also a complete mess. The spacious wardrobe is piled high with all sorts of things they had given each other. She destroyed all the handbags he gave her by cutting them up. Even the pillow with their photo printed on it was shredded into countless pieces by her. The jade bracelets and pendants were all smashed by her. When she loved him, she gave her all, holding nothing back. But he had no right to blame her. Because it was his lack of appreciation, his repeated trampling of her sincerity, that drove her away. She really doesn't want him anymore. The famous Pei family's young master got married. But at the wedding, the bride exposed his intimate photos with another woman and then ran away. Such news is truly sensational. However, the Pei family's influence is too great. Even though everyone is bursting with gossip, no one dares to take photos recklessly, let alone spread the news. Thus this incident never made it online. Zane Pei forbade Mirachin from attending his and Ru Lin's wedding, so naturally Mirachin was unaware of what happened at the ceremony. She only heard that the wedding was cancelled. He wanted to be with him for a lifetime. And now, the scarf she had painstakingly knitted for him stitch by stitch has been completely shredded by her. Shredded without a trace of sentiment. As for what couldn't be shattered, it said she had someone sell them second-hand and donated the proceeds to impoverished mountain regions. When she left, she did it cleanly, not even leaving him a single trace of longing. Last night she pretended to be harassed by some troublemakers to lure Zane Pei out, and then she pleaded with him. She told him she truly loved him. She and the child cannot live without him. She begged him not to marry Ru Lin. After all, it was he who had said before that he never loved Ru Lin, and this wedding was only meant to humiliate Ru Lin. Yet last night he declared that no one would be allowed to disrupt his wedding with Ru Lin. He also said that in a few days he would arrange for someone to send her abroad. As for the child in her womb, whether she wanted to keep it or not was entirely up to her. After all, he didn't care whether the child lived or died. He was determined to marry Ru Lin, and her heart ached as if pierced by 1,000 arrows. Now that she knew their wedding had been cancelled, she couldn't be happier. Brother Pei. As soon as she got out of the car, she saw Zane Pei, who looked utterly lifeless. Her eyelid twitched. However, she didn't dwell on it and instead stepped forward to hug him tightly. As she held him firmly, the lifeless aura around Zane Pei instantly turned into a piercing chill. The surging crimson in his eyes seemed to churn into a bloody hell, as if to drag one mercilessly into the abyss and tear them apart limb by limb. Little did he expect that just as he was about to settle scores with Mirachin, she would deliver herself right to his doorstep. Brother Pei, our baby is acting up again. My stomach hurts so much, he's really being naughty to death. Mirachin clung to him tightly, about to continue her coquetry, when she suddenly felt a sharp, searing pain in her neck. His gaze was icy and cruel, as if he were looking at a corpse. Meeting his eyes, she was so terrified she nearly screamed. You really deserve to die, Mirachin. Zane Pei showed no intention of letting her go. With a sudden force, he brutally pinned her against the nearby wall. His slender fingers tightened gradually, as if he intended to crush and snap her neck. Brother Pei, what on earth is wrong with you? Mirachin trembled like a leaf in the wind. I heard he went back to the marital home he shared with Ru Lin on his own. Even though he had warned her not to appear near the marital home or affect Ru Lin's mood, she still went there eagerly to find him. She felt that his current appearance was somewhat unfamiliar. In her eyes, Zane Pei had always been carefree and dashing, full of vigor. It was the first time she had seen him in such a lifeless state. She couldn't believe how the man who had always been gentle with her could suddenly grip her neck so fiercely. Suppressing her panic, she asked in a trembling voice, Brother Pei, what's wrong with you? Let me go. It really hurts. Remembering that she carried his flesh and blood in her womb, she felt a bit more emboldened. Brother Pei, you can't treat me like this. I'm carrying your child. If anything happens to me or our baby, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Yes, you're carrying my child. The bloodlust in Zane Pei's eyes surged even more violently. His words seemed directed at Mirachin, yet even more so at himself. How could I have touched a filthy thing like you, let alone let you conceive my child? You and the bastard in your womb, you both deserve to die. I should die too. Brother Pei. Mirachin was utterly terrified. She couldn't believe that even after bringing up the child in her womb, he still refused to let go. He even said their child deserved to die. What on earth is wrong with him? Is he possessed or something? Before she could voice these questions, she heard his utterly cold and emotionless words again. How dare you send that kind of video to my wife? How dare you tell her you're carrying my child? How dare you call my wife an old woman? How dare you? Mirachin instantly understood. So it was that disgusting old woman, Ru Lin, who had complained to him. He had clearly told her before that he looked down on that older woman, but she never expected him to stand up for her like this. Suppressing the sharp pain in her neck, she cooed softly, Brother Pei, I really didn't mean it. I just like you so much that I wanted you to break up with Sister Ru Lin. Snap. Hearing her words, he couldn't help but recall the scene of her wearing a sexy kitten outfit to please him. This morning he had someone pull up the surveillance footage outside her villa. He clearly saw that Ru Lin was standing not far away that night. Thinking about how he and Mirachin, dressed as a catwoman, had been tearing at each other and going wild in front of her, he suddenly felt extremely disgusted with himself. He also found the Mirachin before him particularly repulsive. He completely lost his patience and directly ordered the subordinate standing respectfully by his side. Take her to the Pei family's private hospital and get rid of the bastard in her belly. Brother Pei, what did you say? She thought he must be angry, which was why he was so harsh with her. Once she showed him she was 10,000 times better than that older woman, he surely wouldn't keep defending her. Don't be angry anymore. I bought a sexy bunny outfit. Tonight, can you be rough with the little bunny? Zane Pei suddenly tightened his grip, nearly snapping her neck in an instant, the pain silencing her immediately. Mirachin was so anxious that large tears rolled down her cheeks. She had always believed that a mother's status is elevated by her son, and the child in her womb would help her rise in position. Even though Zane Pei mentioned wanting her to go abroad last night, she still thought he was just saying it casually. He couldn't possibly bring himself to leave her and their child. Who would have imagined that he would actually want someone to kill the child in her womb? She nearly screamed in a broken voice, "Brother Pei, you can't do this to me. The child in my womb is your own flesh and blood. You can't kill your own flesh and blood. I won't disturb Sister Rulin anymore in the future. Please don't harm our child, okay?" Zane Pei's gaze held not a trace of compassion as he looked at her. After a long while, he finally gazed in an unknown direction and murmured as if in a dream, "You've already disturbed her. I was supposed to have a child. I was supposed to become a father. But now there's nothing left, nothing at all. Mirachin, because you sent provocative messages to my wife in the hospital, she found out about your pregnancy. She aborted my own flesh and blood. My wife and I lost our child, so why should the bastard in your belly still be alive?" Mirachin froze. She hadn't expected that Rulin was also pregnant. Learning that Rulin had aborted the child actually made her quite happy. However, now that Zane Pei is wholeheartedly protecting Rulin, she dares not show her joy. Instead, she desperately pleads, trying to soften his heart. "I didn't know Sister Rulin was pregnant at the time. Sister Rulin is carrying your child, but isn't the baby in my womb also your flesh and blood? Brother Pei, I'm begging you, you can't harm our child. Take her to the hospital." Mirachin was crying violently and miserably, but there was not a trace of pity in Zane Pei's eyes. He coldly glanced at Mirachin and directly signaled his subordinates to forcibly drag her into the car. He knew that if he allowed Mirachin to give birth to this child, he and Rulin would never have a chance to reconcile. There could be no mistakes in this matter. After a moment of silence, he still followed them to the hospital. "Let me go. You have no right to kill my child. Brother Pei, make them release me now. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't harm its own cub. How can you abandon your own flesh and blood?" Mirachin struggled desperately, trying to break free from the bodyguard's grip to protect the leverage in her womb. It's just that Zane Pei's influence is truly too great, and this private hospital is his territory. Her resistance is utterly meaningless. The moment she was forcibly dragged into the operating room, Mirachin knew she could no longer protect the child in her womb. Overwhelming resentment and fury drove her to scream hysterically, "I may have upset Rulin, but the one who truly killed the child in her belly is you. If you hadn't insisted on taking revenge on her and toying with her feelings, she wouldn't have been so utterly disappointed in you. It was you who got me pregnant, it was you who kept sleeping with me behind her back. How dare you hurt my child?" The operating room doors slammed shut, completely cutting off Mirachin's voice. But her furious screams still echoed relentlessly in Zane Pei's ears. As for aborting the child in Mirachin's womb, Zane Pei felt not a shred of heartache or reluctance, only overwhelming relief. Mirachin's words still cut him like a knife. Because she was right, he, Zane Pei, was the one truly responsible for the death of his and Rulin's child. If from the very beginning he had faced his own heart with courage and honesty, he wouldn't have lost the woman he loved most. But now his heart was utterly broken. Time could not be turned back, and no matter how much he regretted, nothing could undo the pain he had caused her. She knew she had truly let go. Zane Pei dislikes appearing in front of the media. But to find Rulin, he made a rare exception and gave an interview. He said he had lost his beloved wife and hoped everyone could help provide any leads about her whereabouts. A reward of 1 million will be given to anyone who can provide useful leads. After moving abroad, Rulin furthered her studies at school under her teacher's guidance and also participated in various performances. She knew Zane Pei was looking for her and didn't want her peaceful life disrupted. For every performance, she habitually wore a silver mask and used an English name. However, money can make the devil turn the millstone. In her second year abroad, a netizen still provided Zane Pei with a photo of her eating wontons in Chinatown. Zane Pei somehow managed to do the impossible. Despite being previously unable to leave the country, he found his way to her just days later. Fortunately, Su Yutong learned about this in advance and tipped her off. She boarded a flight to France the day before Zane Pei came looking for her. During her 2 years abroad, she lived a peaceful and fulfilling life. After all, she had loved Zane Pei for far too long and far too deeply. Completely letting go of that love wasn't so easy. In the early days after going abroad, she often thought of him. She would doubt herself, her heart would ache as if cut by a knife, and the pain would keep her awake night after night. But after deciding to stop loving Zane Pei, it was like cutting out the rotten flesh from her own body. It hurt terribly when removed, but those wounds would gradually heal. Later she hardly thought of him at all. Even if I occasionally think of it, my heart can hardly stir up any more waves. Now that Zane Pei is searching for her all over the world, she doesn't feel moved at all. Instead, she feels his actions have caused her a great deal of trouble. She only hopes that no one will provide him with any clues about her whereabouts. He should no longer disturb her peaceful life. She went to a small town in France which was tranquil and beautiful. The people there were very friendly and no one paid attention to domestic news. She actually enjoyed a period of peaceful and wonderful time. Over these 3 years she has gained so much. She hadn't heard from Zane Pei in the past year. That feeling was very strange. It's as if she's a heartless woman who played with Remy Chen's feelings, leading him on and then abandoning him. 3 years apart, the young man had clearly grown taller. His demeanor is noticeably different from 3 years ago. 3 years ago, Remy Chen had the full aura of an aloof campus heartthrob, pure and untainted by worldly dust. Recalling how, due to her health issues 3 years ago, they had explored each other's bodies multiple times without going all the way, she felt a slight awkwardness. Their relationship was one of financial support, so when they met, exchanging pleasantries day by day, 3 years had passed since she fled from the wedding. She obtained a diploma from that prestigious dance academy abroad and even went on several tours with her teacher, receiving excellent feedback. Recently, her teacher planned to return home and asked whether she wanted to stay or come back together. The scenery abroad is beautiful, but Ru Lin misses her hometown even more. She felt that enough time had passed and Zane Pei must have found someone new by now. After she returned to the country, he probably wouldn't bother her anymore, so she decided to go back with her teacher. What she didn't expect was that, a week before her return, she would see Remy Chen outside her rented house. Over these 3 years, Ru Lin had occasionally thought of Remy Chen. Thinking of how she transferred $1 million to Remy Chen and told him they should never contact each other again, the usually cold and jade-like young man surprisingly pleaded with her in a pitiful manner, saying, "Sister, don't ignore me." When she first took Remy Chen as her kept man, it was clearly just for a fleeting novelty for his youthful and beautiful body. Yet over these 3 years, every time she recalled his pitiful plea not to ignore him, she felt an indescribable sense of guilt. Originally over 6 feet tall, he now stood nearly 6'3". The young man stood tall and straight, like a slender bamboo or a piece of fine cold jade, elegant, aloof. His face had grown even more handsome than 3 years ago, increasingly impossible to look away from. But now, Remy Chen carries an indescribable air of noble elegance, a commanding presence that makes others wary of underestimating him. Wasn't appropriate. She simply hurried inside, pretending not to see him. "Sister, are you trying to run away again?" Before she could even open the apartment door, he suddenly rushed forward, pinning her firmly against the wall. The young man's large hands slid down from her shoulders inch by inch, gripping her slender waist tightly like a lone wolf seizing its prey, holding her with an almost obsessive restraint. At the very beginning, the youth's eyes carried a coldness as sharp as ice and snow. Later, the corners of his eyes gradually turned crimson, making him look somewhat aggrieved. His voice also couldn't help but take on a hoarse, intensely anxious tone. "But this time I won't give you another chance to run away." Remy Chen let go first. The possessiveness in his eyes was too evident, and his palms were scorching hot. Being trapped in his embrace like this, Ru Lin felt extremely awkward. She squirmed uncomfortably, trying to put some distance between them. Little did she expect the dark waves in his eyes to grow even deeper. Then she heard him say, "Sister, I've missed you so much these 3 years. Sister, can I kiss you?" Kiss her? Ru Lin was completely startled by Remy Chen's words. Truly, before this, their relationship had been nothing but a cold, transactional arrangement. After 3 years apart, the moment they meet again he starts talking about intimacy. How utterly abrupt. Yet as Ru Lin lifted her gaze, she caught sight of the young man's perfectly curved, alluring lips. And suddenly she remembered not long ago, as if under some spell, she had even dreamed of him kissing her fiercely. Ru Lin swallowed hard. As the young man's lips drew closer to hers, she couldn't help but feel her mouth go dry. She thought with a sense of reckless abandon, why not just kiss him? It wasn't like they hadn't kissed before. Moreover, 3 years ago she had personally confirmed that his lips were quite nice to kiss. "Sister, I really want to kiss you. I'm going crazy with desire." Ru Lin inexplicably felt the air grow uncomfortably warm. Remy Chen had a face that exuded a cold, almost ascetic allure, yet when he spoke those words, his entire demeanor became irresistibly seductive. And dangerously so. In Ru Lin's dazed moment, his lips were already pressing down on hers. "Since you're not saying anything, sister, I'll take it as your agreement." As he spoke, he suddenly deepened the kiss, inch by inch invading her breath as if he wanted to devour her whole. He has strong exploratory skills. Compared to 3 years ago, his kissing technique has significantly improved. But because the kiss was too fierce, even bordering on biting, Rulin still felt pain. Yet, with their breaths entwined, she could clearly sense his longing for her. Her heart ached dully, and for some inexplicable reason, she found herself reluctant to push him away. Just open the door. Hearing Remy Chen's voice, Rulin was abruptly jolted back to reality. She didn't really want to open the door for Remy Chen. She had a strong premonition that if she let Remy Chen in, their relationship would spiral out of control. And she hadn't considered starting a new relationship again. But then she heard the friendly laughter of her neighbors. She also overheard the neighbor saying in German, "Your boyfriend is so handsome." Rulin wanted to say that Remy Chen wasn't her boyfriend. But despite Remy Chen's aloof and handsome appearance, he was actually quite thick-skinned. He even thanked the neighbor in fluent German. Rulin's face turned so red it seemed about to drip blood. It was after work hours and the neighbors were gradually returning home. She certainly didn't want to become a spectacle for everyone, so she had no choice but to open the door and invite the wolf into her house. "Sister, what would you like to eat tonight?" Remy Chen naturally carried Rulin into the apartment, his demeanor so familiar it was as if he were the man of the house. Rulin somewhat regretted letting him in and thought about asking him to leave. But before she could voice her request to send him away, she heard him speak again. "I noticed you have quite a few ingredients in your fridge. How about fish-flavored shredded pork, sweet and sour pork ribs, braised fish and maybe some dessert?" Rulin's words of dismissal instantly stuck in her throat. Although her parents passed away early, her elder brother who grew up with her was truly good to her. Her brother was also a genius. During his school years he had already started his own business, and by the time he graduated from university his tech company had gone public. Her brother spoiled her like a little princess, so she never learned how to cook. After going abroad, she often missed Chinese cuisine, but it was hard to find authentic Chinese food overseas. She couldn't resist her cravings and would occasionally cook a few dishes for herself. However, her cooking skills never improved. Every time she cooked, the food would either be burnt or unbearably salty. But 3 years ago she tasted the dishes prepared by Remy Chen. His cooking consisted of relatively simple home-style dishes, without much fancy presentation, yet the flavors rivaled those of top-tier chefs. The moment he spoke, her mouth was already watering. She swallowed hard and admitted sheepishly, "I still want to eat scrambled eggs with tomatoes." "All right." Hearing her words, Remy Chen immediately beamed with joy. As if the biting frost and snow melted under the sunlight, with spring warmth and blooming flowers, it was so beautiful that Rulin couldn't help but feel her heart race, hurriedly turning her face away. Remy Chen was a man of strong initiative. Before long he had prepared 4 dishes and a soup for Rulin. The soup was also Rulin's favorite, seafood dumpling soup. He also made Rulin's favorite strawberry shortcake. 3 years ago, Zhang Pei had repeatedly promised to bring her strawberry shortcake. But each time he became lost in Mirachin's tender embrace, forgetting all about his promise to bring Rulin's strawberry shortcake. It was on the day of her miscarriage that Remy Chen personally made her a strawberry shortcake. Remy Chen actually made her feel very warm. "Sis, why aren't you eating? Don't you like strawberry shortcake anymore? If you don't, I can make something else." "I do." Rulin certainly didn't want to let his kindness go to waste, so she quickly took a bite of the small cake. The sweet and tangy strawberries mixed with the animal cream were unbelievably delicious. However, as she savored the delightful strawberry cake, she couldn't help but recall some rather impure memories. 3 years ago, on the day she visited Remy Chen's penthouse, she had completely let loose, indulging in wild and unrestrained fun. After finishing the strawberry cake, she had even left love bites on Remy Chen. Remy Chen appears slender, but when he takes off his clothes he's surprisingly well built. His cool, pale skin is dotted with love bites, like peach blossoms blooming in the snow, utterly irresistible. Rulin slapped her own face hard. She really couldn't let her thoughts wander any further. If she kept thinking like this, she'd turn into a total pervert. Rulin hadn't had such delicious food in a long time, and tonight she ate to her heart's content. After the two happily finished dinner, Remy Chen took the initiative to wash the dishes in the kitchen. Rulin thought that after eating, drinking and washing the dishes, Remy Chen should also leave. But he showed no intention of leaving at all. He also unbuttoned the top 3 buttons of his white shirt, letting his chest muscles peek through. "Sis, 3 years ago you gave me a total of 2 million. 2 million could keep me for 100 years. Sis, our arrangement isn't over yet. Tonight, sis, you can do whatever you want with me. 2 million to keep him for 100 years? What a bargain. Seeing the shortcake adorned with fresh strawberries, Rulin's thoughts couldn't help but drift far, far away. Deep down, Rulin knew that keeping a man wasn't exactly proper behavior, but Remy-chan was just too tempting, not to mention his cooking skills. She figured since she'd already spent the money, there was no point in being coy. It's truly a great value for the price. Every night he would dominantly take her to the heights of pleasure again and again, making her addicted and losing control, unable to extricate herself. In just a week she had already grown accustomed to Remy-chan's presence. In her dazed state he carried her to the car, then to the airport and onto the flight back home. Wife. Yet just as she stepped out of the airport she saw Zane Pei. Zane Pei clearly could not. For these 3 years he had been searching for Rulin. In the midnight dreams she seemed to have become his inner demon, the bone-deep longing leaving him almost without a good night's sleep for 3 years. Seeing her standing right in front of him for a moment he thought he was dreaming. He pinched himself hard to make sure it wasn't a dream, and the corners of his unrestrained peach blossom eyes couldn't help but turn deep red. So that night, after Remy-chan finished showering, watching water droplets roll one by one down his collarbone, she couldn't resist. She pounced, took a bite, and then things quickly spiraled out of control. After a night of madness, Rulin never mentioned the keeping arrangement again, but the two seemed to tacitly acknowledge this kind of relationship. Remy-chan moved into her apartment with righteous confidence. He said that no matter whether she chose to return to their home country or settle abroad, he would always stay by her side. Rulin suddenly felt that keeping Remy-chan 3 years ago was the best decision she had ever made. In front of others he appears aloof and unapproachable, like an untouchable flower on a high peak, but in her presence he is genuinely considerate. During the day he accompanies her for walks and exercise, and when it's mealtime he willingly heads to the kitchen to prepare meals for her. They are also perfectly in sync when it comes to intimacy in bed. Even the thought that one day he might marry, have children, and propose to end their arrangement made her feel somewhat sad. She could offer more money. She wanted to support Remy-chan for life. The night before returning home, Rulin was exhausted and couldn't even open her eyes in the morning. Rulin hoped that in this lifetime she and Zane Pei would never have to meet again. Compared to 3 years ago, Zane Pei had become much thinner. But his face remained as flawlessly handsome as ever. Yet staring at this face so familiar it couldn't be more so, Rulin felt not the slightest ripple or flutter in her heart. Time truly is the most terrifying and miraculous thing under heaven. It can forcefully dilute everything, be it love or hate. Standing before Zane Pei now, she was more certain than ever. She had truly let go. He took a swift step forward, wanting to tightly pull Rulin into his embrace. However, before he could even touch Rulin, Remy-chan possessively pulled her into his arms. President Pei, randomly hugging someone else's girlfriend isn't a good habit. Please keep your distance from my girlfriend in the future. In front of Rulin, although Remy-chan couldn't hide his innate nobility, the impression he gave her was always gentle and considerate. Facing Zane Pei, he unexpectedly exuded the sharpness of a superior, and the invisible aura of authority emanating from him was even more chilling, making it impossible for anyone to underestimate him. Zane Pei couldn't believe that Rulin actually knew Remy-chan. Remy-chan even said she was his girlfriend. Darling, I truly know I was wrong. Please give me one last chance, come back to me, okay? But none of that mattered to her anymore. Zane Pei was utterly stunned. He recognized Remy-chan instantly. The sole heir of the top aristocratic Qin family in the imperial capital. It is said that when Remy-chan was 1 year old he was stolen by the enemies of the Qin family through unscrupulous means and thrown into a river in an attempt to drown him. Grandma Qin found him and raised him single-handedly. 2 years ago the Qin family found Remy-chan and reunited with him. Remy-chan was very successful in his university startup, and after being recognized by the Qin family his career flourished even more. A year ago he officially took over the Qin group and led it to even greater heights. Watching Remy-chan pull the suitcase with one hand and naturally hold Rulin's hand with the other, while she showed not a hint of resistance but only full dependence and affection towards him, Zane Pei's face instantly drained of all color. His tall frame hunched over in pain, the excruciating agony in his chest like a knife wound made it impossible for him to straighten up for a moment. Rulin was his wife, the only woman he had ever loved. He couldn't bear the thought of another man touching her, let alone the possibility that one day she might fall in love with someone else. Zane Pei took several deep, painful breaths before finally finding his voice again. He looked at Rulin with devotion, almost humility, and said, I admit, the reason I approached you in the beginning was because I was mortal enemies with your elder brother. I wanted to use you to make him die with everlasting regret. But my so-called revenge was just self-deception. The truth is, I had already fallen in love with you without even realizing it. Darling, I've already had Mirachin terminate the pregnancy. You're the only one in my heart, and I'll never do anything to upset you again. Hearing him mention Mirachin, Rulin was slightly taken aback. She hadn't expected that 3 years ago, despite how precious Mirachin was to him, he would have let her abort the child. Because Zane Pei had long ceased to matter in her heart. Honey, I didn't know you were pregnant 3 years ago. Zane Pei's eyes were filled with overwhelming pain, the corners of his eyes so red it seemed as if a tear of blood might form. His voice too ached as if crushed by wheels. I regret it so much. It was me who caused our child's death. Yes, my love, we'll have many, many more children in the future. I'll love you and our children well, I promise. Please don't leave me, okay? Mr. Pei. As Zane Pei stumbled forward, trying to grasp her hand again, Rulin immediately pulled Remichin a big step back. Her coldness and wariness toward him stabbed painfully at his eyes and pierced his heart. Hearing her coldly address him as Mr. Pei instead of Zane pierced his heart like 10,000 arrows, making him wish for death rather than endure such agony. Before Zane Pei could recover from the excruciating pain in his heart, he heard Rulin's utterly emotionless voice. Let me correct you. I'm not your wife. 3 years ago, the night I discovered your plan to flee the wedding, I had already given up on you completely. On the day of our wedding, when I chose to run away, I made it crystal clear to you, what we had was over long ago, and there is no possibility left between us. Please don't call me wife anymore in the future. It makes me. Remichin isn't Rulin's boyfriend, just a financially struggling male college student she's supporting. But she didn't want to be pestered by Zane Pei anymore, so she added, this might make my boyfriend misunderstand. I love my boyfriend very much. If he gets hurt or upset, it would break my heart. You love him so much. Hearing Rulin say she loved Remichin, the pain in Zane Pei's chest felt like it was tearing him apart, making him bend over again uncontrollably. He still couldn't accept that the girl he loved would fall for another man. After taking a deep breath, he continued in a trembling voice, we've shared so many years of feelings. I don't believe you'd just casually fall for someone else. Darling, you said he's your boyfriend, you're just trying to upset me, aren't you? I really regret it so much, I'll never make you angry again, my dear wife. Deliberately upsetting you? Are you even worth it? Rulin coldly cut him off with a mocking laugh. Ha, all those years of feelings. Zane Pei, all those years of feelings didn't stop you from betraying me. I am indeed with Remichin now and I can't live without him. Zane Pei, I really don't love you anymore, so please stop bothering me in the future. The most disgusting thing in my life was ever loving you. Hearing Rulin's words, Zane Pei's face twisted in even greater pain. He staggered back, barely able to keep his footing. He didn't dare to imagine that she would say the most disgusting thing in her life was having loved him. 1,000 arrows piercing the heart couldn't compare to this pain. Rulin had no mood to care about Zane Pei's heart-wrenching agony. Seeing him clutching his chest, his body swaying unsteadily and unable to continue stopping her, she seized the opportunity to take Remichin's hand and quickly walked out of the airport. During this time, Remichin has changed how he addresses Rulin again. The driver was at the wheel in front. After they got into the car, he still held her hand tightly. You just said you love me and you also said I'm your boyfriend. Can I be your boyfriend? Rulin thought their current arrangement was just fine. A straightforward transaction, no responsibilities, no need to offer genuine feelings. She definitely didn't want to be his girlfriend. Just as she was about to refuse, Remichin cupped the back of her head and possessively captured her lips in a searing kiss. The one driving in front was the Chin family's chauffeur. The chauffeur was very perceptive. Noticing the passion in the back seat through the rearview mirror, he silently raised the partition. There's someone in the car. Rulin was about to protest when she noticed that the chauffeur had already raised the partition. Her face turned even redder, almost like a boiled shrimp. She exerted force in her hands, instinctively trying to push Remichin away, not allowing him to go wild in the car. Little did she know, not only did he not let go, but he also deepened the kiss. He began using that ambiguous, seductive voice to call her sister again. Sister isn't allowed to say no. If sister says no, I'll kiss her until she cries. Listen, is this even human speech? In front of others, he could barely utter a few words all day, cold as an iceberg, so how could he be this shameless in front of her? Big sister, will you be my girlfriend? Remichin pushed his luck, his hand boldly slipping into her collar, advancing like a conqueror. I'm not lying, I'll really treat you well forever, big sister. Rulin didn't speak, just turned her face away with reddened eyes. Every man loves to talk about forever. But in this vast world, how many can truly remain steadfast until death? She no longer dared to believe in men. Remy Chin saw her struggle and unease and didn't press her further. He actually wanted to take her back to his villa. But he hadn't yet revealed his true identity to her, fearing she might think he had deceived her. So for now he followed her back to her spacious downtown apartment. Remy Chin had already instructed the housekeeper to clean the place in advance. As soon as they entered, he eagerly carried her into the bedroom, kissing her until she could barely breathe. The clouds dispersed and the rain ceased. She had just fallen asleep when Remy Chen's phone rang urgently. Remy Chen's eyes turned cold, but he still answered the call. "Remy Chen, where are you now?" "You." "She's exhausted and fell asleep." Before he could finish, Remy Chen coldly cut him off. Remy Chen's implication was all too obvious. Clearly he meant that Ru Lin was tired because of him. Faintly he could even hear Ru Lin murmuring Remy Chen's name in her drowsiness. The dense, overwhelming pain enveloped his heart like an iron net, making every breath he took an agony. When he heard her say she was going to sleep with Remy Chen, it felt like a knife twisting in his heart. But the heartache and sorrow he felt then were nothing compared to the utter despair consuming him now. At the airport he had thought she was just speaking in anger. She was just deliberately using Remy Chen to provoke him. He couldn't bear to think that she had actually been intimate with Remy Chen and slept with him. He couldn't help but think just hearing others say she was exhausted had already pierced his heart like 10,000 arrows, making life worse than death. 3 years ago when she had witnessed him being so close with Mira Chin, how much pain and despair must she have felt in her heart? The increasingly unbearable agony was slowly tearing Zane Pei's heart apart. After bending over in pain, he found himself completely unable to straighten up again. "Remy Chen, I won't allow you to touch my wife." As he continued shouting, his voice uncontrollably took on a tone of pitiful, helpless sobs. "Wife, I truly know I was wrong. I don't mind that you've been with others. I will never make you angry again. I really can't live without you. Please come back to me, okay? Dream on." Remy Chen answered his call to make him give up and stop pestering Ru Lin in the future. But seeing how stubborn he was, completely unwilling to let go, Remy Chen didn't waste any more time on him. He coldly hung up the phone, then kissed Ru Lin's red lips with lingering tenderness. In truth, he had an unyielding pride. Even if penniless, he would never consent to being kept by a woman. But 3 years ago the woman who kept him was Ru Lin, the girl he had longed for since childhood. Being kept by her didn't feel humiliating or shameful. He only wanted to do everything in his power to hold on to her. Yet 3 years ago she merely declared their relationship over before kicking him aside and leaving without a word. He almost never saw her again. He searched frantically for 3 years, suffering in agony for 3 years. Now that the moon has finally fallen into his arms, how could he possibly let Zane Pei snatch her away? He took a deep breath, struggling to find his voice, then shouted hoarsely, "Wife, don't let him touch you." He kissed her crimson lips more deeply with devout passion. "Sister, you are mine. In this lifetime and the next you can never think of leaving me. Never think of it." A 23-year-old young man truly has incredible stamina. At first, Ru Lin could still keep up with his demands. Later she was completely exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. She woke up to find it was already noon the next day. Remy Chin stood by the bed, buttoning his white shirt one by one, looking peerlessly elegant and incomparably refined. As Ru Lin lifted her eyelids, she caught a glimpse of his faintly visible chest muscles. Recalling last night, she had grabbed that spot several times when she couldn't hold back. Accented by crimson scratches, the youth's cool, pale skin looked increasingly alluring and provocative. She couldn't help but swallow hard. "If you'd like, sister, I can stay undressed. What good can come from not wearing clothes?" Thinking of his wild and fierce demeanor in bed, Ru Lin suddenly felt her legs go weak. "Stop undressing, I'm practically starving to death." Remy Chen's cooking skills are, as always, excellent. The abundance of domestic ingredients gave him more room to showcase his culinary skills. As she savored the delicious dishes and gazed at his strikingly handsome face, Ru Lin surprisingly felt a rare sense of peaceful contentment. For a fleeting moment she even imagined spending her entire life with Remy Chen. Yet she knew better than to trust a man's sweet words and grand promises. Unwilling to risk her heart again, she resolved to simply keep him as her kept man. She would let him go. The food was so delicious that Ru Lin accidentally overate. Remy Chen cleaned up the dining table and kitchen, then accompanied her for a walk outside. As soon as they stepped out of the residential area, Mira Chin, who had been waiting outside, lunged at Ru Lin like a rabid dog. Had enough of looking? Ru Lin was still lost in the afterglow of certain indescribable scenes when she heard his teasing voice. Seeing that he hadn't even finished buttoning up and was already starting to unbutton again, Ru Lin, afraid he might go wild on her once more, quickly spoke up to stop him. "Okay, I'll make something delicious for my sister." When Remy Chin is fierce, it's overwhelming, but when she's good, she's exceptionally well behaved. He buttoned up his white shirt again, planted a loving kiss on Ru Lin's forehead, and then turned to leave the bedroom. If he could continue accepting this arrangement, she was willing to keep him for a lifetime without ever changing. If one day he grew tired, regretted it, or met a girl he truly loved, she wouldn't use their arrangement to trap him. In her hand she clutched a gleaming fruit knife. Mira Chin truly harbored a venomous hatred for Ru Lin. 4 years ago, after Ru Lin saved her, Zane Pei also arrived at the scene. Seeing that Zane Pei was handsome and drove a luxury car worth tens of millions, she knew he was wealthy and immediately set her sights on him. She employed many tactics and finally managed to climb into his bed, becoming his woman and even getting pregnant with his child. Forced by circumstances, she had no choice but to become a mistress for wealthy older men. Many older men have twisted tastes, and to please them she endured considerable hardship. Originally, being a mistress to those older men had already subjected her to endless humiliation. Not long ago, after becoming pregnant with one of their children, she was brutally beaten in public by his wife, who had underworld connections, resulting in a miscarriage and the permanent loss of her ability to bear children. With no way out left, she was determined to drag Ru Lin down with her before she died. After learning Ru Lin had returned to the country, she secretly lurked near her neighborhood, waiting for a chance to kill her. To her surprise, the opportunity actually came. Sister. However, hoping Ru Lin would open up to him, he still decided to play a little trick. Instead of holding her to dodge, he let Mira Chin plunge the fruit knife in her hand into his back. Brother Remy. She thought she could marry into the affluent Pei family with the child in her womb. She didn't dare to think it was all because of that bitch Ru Lin, who had cruelly killed the child in her womb. After Zane Pei forced her to abort her child, he continued to target her relentlessly. Numerous scandals were exposed about her, leading to her expulsion from school and relentless online abuse. She couldn't find a job and couldn't marry a decent man. And having grown accustomed to spending lavishly, she couldn't bear the humiliation of being penniless. His malicious wife even threatened to have her killed. She had heard about the old woman's ruthless methods and knew these words were no empty threat. She genuinely wanted her dead. She believed her misery was all Ru Lin's doing. She glared venomously at Ru Lin, mustering all her strength before viciously thrusting the fruit knife toward her heart. Remy Chin hadn't anticipated such a sudden turn of events. Instinctively, he shielded Ru Lin in his arms. He was very agile, kicking Mira Chin away effortlessly. Remy Chin is the white moonlight in Mira Chin's heart. Seeing him risk his life to block a knife for Ru Lin, her heart ached, but she hated Ru Lin even more. She wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes with force, then pulled the knife from his back and stabbed it fiercely into Ru Lin once again. This time she failed to harm anyone again. Remy Chin kicked her hard, sending her flying. The neighborhood security guard heard the commotion, rushed over, snatched the knife from her hand and pinned her firmly to the ground. Someone had already called the police. Soon the police arrived and took her straight to the station. She knew that what awaited her was the severe punishment of the law. He didn't want to go to prison. She hated the unfairness of fate to the extreme. She felt that it should be Ru Lin who deserved to be imprisoned and die a miserable death. Why was it her life that was ruined? However, Remy Chin would never let her off. No matter how much hatred or resentment she harbored, she could no longer harm Ru Lin. Darling. Zane Pei happened to come looking for Ru Lin in this area. From a distance he saw Mira Chin attempting to hurt Ru Lin and sprinted over like a madman. But Remy Chin acted faster than him, using his own flesh and blood to shield Ru Lin. Remy Chin, how are you? Are you in a lot of pain? Ru Lin hadn't noticed his presence at all. At that moment her heart and eyes held only Remy Chin. Darling. With tears in her eyes she nodded firmly. Darling, I could take a knife for you too. She held on to Remy Chin with all her strength, tears rolling down in large drops. Her eyes, brimming with moisture, were filled with nothing but heartache and concern for Remy Chin. She still ignored him. In fact, even as she accompanied Remy Chin onto the ambulance, she didn't spare him a single glance. He saw Remy Chin snuggling in her arms, cooing, "Sister, never leave me." The ambulance had already driven far away, yet Zane Pei remained frozen in place, his face deathly pale, murmuring the words over and over. "I'm willing to die for you. Honey, don't ignore me." Only the howling winter wind rushing past his ears responded to him. Watching the ambulance disappear around the corner, he finally realized she truly didn't want him anymore. 5 years later. These 5 years had been particularly difficult for Zane Pei. When Ru Lin first returned to the country, he sought her out multiple times, even going so far as to kneel and beg for her to come back. But her eyes were only for Remy Chin. Later she begged him to stop bothering and disgusting her. The hatred in her eyes stabbed him so deeply that he dared not seek her out again. Every day without her felt like a living death to him. He could only numb his aching heart with alcohol. Yet even when he drank himself into a stupor, his heart remained hollow and in pain. He lost her, and for the rest of his life he would never find redemption. He never expected that while taking a walk at the university she once attended today, he would see her with Remy Chin and their son. She and Remy Chin, each holding one hand of the child who looked about 3 or 4 years old. They exchanged occasional glances, their affection flowing between them, their love so intense it nearly made him lose his footing. Especially when he saw the boy who looked so much like Remy Chin, his heart ached so badly that he stumbled and collapsed to the ground in utter disarray. They should have had children of their own. But alas, he had committed an unforgivable mistake. He had lost her forever, and with her their child. The family of 3 walked away quickly, chatting and laughing. Yet he could never escape from it. He was doomed to a lifetime of torment and regret, never finding peace.